Well, good afternoon, Mr. Michael Perez. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Christy. I'm doing well, thank you. Doing well.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
we're just so excited to have you on today to interview you about this amazing, kind of revolutionary product that you guys have come up with. And I just want to start with, first of all, with the name of your company and kind of give us a little bit of background on that.
sure. Symtool Systems, name of the company. We are bringing a new system to the tile market, but started out in design build,
Hmm.
built in the neighborhood of 320 homes and 90 or so commercial projects, including some really large ones down at West Point. And ended up in the tile business about
Hmm.
10 or 11 years ago, and basically doing mid and high rise residential ground up stuff. New structures, pretty large, and we have morphed now into tooling company. Building the tools that make up the system.
Incredible. How long have you guys been together now?
About 10 or 11 years. SimTool, about 2 years. We've been in the field using the equipment, and behind me you can see a few on the top shelves, you can see some of the prototypes we were using when we first developed the product.
Awesome. Well, tell us about this amazing product, Tile Gripper. How did this get started? Was it a dream you had, or was it just over time you're just like, this could be a better way of doing this?
Well, I thought about something similar quite a few times in the past. And basically, when we're going on these jobs, they're, pretty large. And we get typical job is 100 to 200 units. And we're doing, bathrooms, and they're, a lot of repetition. And quite often, an architect will call out a fairly small tile. And, on a 4 by 12, most mechanics can move pretty quickly setting those. But you get down into the smaller pieces, and it really slows the work down. So we had a specific job that this was originally designed for. It was 168 units, prevailing wage job, New York City, very
Mm-hmm.
expensive per hour, over $100 with burden. And a long story short, it was whether or not I was going to take the job. We had to bring our number down to meet another contractor. It was substantial. They asked us to knock the number down by $52,000. They wanted us to do it. We had done a lot of work for this particular contractor. So, I had an idea to do this exact thing. And so I took the job, figuring we could probably put something together in time to do this installation and save that 52,000. Yeah, that's kind of how it started.
It's like the mother of invention, isn't it, when you have some sort of situation like that?
Absolutely. I wanted the prevailing wage job for my guys, who are pretty awesome installers. They were obviously, they were very happy to make, $90 an hour doing the install, and ended up falling in love with the at that time it was just a tool. Since then, of course, we've graduated to a full system.
I noticed that in your verbiage. It was very interesting. It's isn't just a tool, it's a system. So tell us a little bit about that distinction now.
Sure, sure. So we call it, well, for short, we call it POTIS, Pattern Oriented Tile Installation System.
Mm.
And the way it works is very simple. You orient your tile in the pattern and grout joint that you want to see on the wall, exactly the way it's going to look. And then you take your gripping apparatus and you set that up to be able to pick the tile, and then it's pick and place. And instead of doing one tile at a time, you're putting up 6 to 24 at a time, depending on the tile.
How did your guys like go, wow? I mean, what was the response from using this for the first time?
Well, I think the response was pretty much the same that I get from every installer when they first look at it. These guys are skeptical. They've been installing for a long time. They're really good at what they do, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And the first instinct is, this isn't going to work for this job, or this isn't going to work for that job. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first instinct, and it doesn't work for every job. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
tile, this is for tiles between mosaic and large format, right? All that tile, a lot of wall tile, subway tile. But so they were very skeptical when we first got on the job site. And that skepticism changed within a couple of days. They were absolutely loving it, and basically doubled our output. Actually, more than doubled. It was a 70% labor savings, and I saved that 52 plus. Total of 103,000 we saved on that job. I had to drop the number by 52, but we ended up netting an additional 60 grand.
So that just must have like made the lights go off for you, just like this thing is going to be a very viable, profitable, and sought after tool, especially for, like you were saying, these high volume Tyler groups, the mid to high volume.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of feedback are you getting? Now, for example, I met you guys down at Coverings 2025 in Orlando. And it just kind of blew my mind just knowing, what I know so far in tile. But what kind of response have you been getting of like how this could impact these tile contractors' work?
And that's a really interesting question, because the response we got was really quite different than what I thought it would be. So I'm dealing with the owner, of course, of the tile installation company, and the response I thought I was going to get at first was, wow, we're saving so much money. I love it. This is great. And instead what I was getting was, these guys love this tool. They love using it. And so, that has been the main thing. I mean, we only have 3 out there right now. We have a bunch more about to go out.
Mm-hmm.
But from the 3 that are using it right now, this is what I was getting from all 3. Saying it's slightly different, but basically the same thing, which was, the installers really enjoy using the system.
To me, it is revolutionary in that, one by one, you're just placing these tile, but now you've got this whole system where it's like kabam, and you can focus more on quality and efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just easier on the installer. I mean, they're not, when you're handling, a lot of these guys are doing 300 feet a day of wall tile. And, that could be up to, depending on what kind of tile you're installing, that could be, 1,000 tile that you're touching every day, grabbing it, installing it, moving it into position, and, rough on the hands, rough on the back, the whole thing. With something like this, what we found is that, we put the young guy on the gripper, and, and the guy who's running the job, the foreman, he's the guy walking behind them, making sure everything is perfect once they do the placement. And it seems like everybody, really settled into it. It's a change from what they're used to, but the helper is much happier doing it, and apparently the installers are also.
Absolutely. So you were saying something about like how this system will change the way tiling, for how crew members work together. How have you seen that a little bit more in detail? Like, how have you seen that changing their process?
So, on our first job, that's a perfect example. So it took us about 3 days to figure out the most intelligent way to move forward. And we were using on that job, we were installing 2x8 tile vertical stack. And each bathroom was around 100 square feet, just the tub enclosure, a small wet wall, and a little tiny party wall on the side there. And they couldn't get a full bathroom done in a day, one man. So, one guy would go in, he'd start, and then the next day they'd come in and put another, 2 hours in, say, to finish. That was typically what was happening. And so we're getting about 80 plus feet a day, and over 1,000 tiles. It was it's a lot of work.
It is.
Once we got going, within 3 days, what we were doing is we had 3 men go out on the floor. There would happen to be 12 bathrooms per floor, and the 3 men went out and did their starter course, and their main cuts around the plumbing of at the shower. They would cut around the plumbing fixtures. Didn't do the shower head, but the diverter and below, and just square that off, and then their starter course. and each guy was doing about 3 a day of those. The next day, they came in and installed the rest of the tile, including their end cuts. So, I mean, one guy was just, 12 bathrooms. The cuts were done.
That's
So they had
crazy.
to be installing in the neighborhood of 80. Yeah, it's 80 square, about 1,000 square feet or so. One guy with the gripper and another guy supporting him, somebody out in front of him. And one of the things that's really a big time saver is, we're using thin set on these jobs. And you can only mix so much thin set because you don't want it skinning over, obviously, before you do your install.
Right.
But you go so fast with the gripper that you, instead of doing 3 different, mixes and mobilizations, if you will, for the, to put the adhesive on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
they're, running out, they're doing the whole bathroom and going on to the next one. And then somebody comes in with the tile gripper and then, does all the main field, and then another man behind them doing the cuts. It just worked out great. Yeah, it really worked out great. And what we were doing is we use a little bit larger trowel, using a 1/4 by 1/4 trowel on a wall,
Mm-hmm.
and a good quality thin set also. And as you place 2 square feet on the wall as opposed to 16 square inches, you're not dropping every tile into a low spot and hitting the high spots. So you take out a lot of lippage. It really leaves a clean finish, straightens out the lines.
Like you were saying, one person did this, the other person did that. Is that why you call it a more than a tool? It's a system.
Well, the system really is 2 parts at the moment, which is setting up your pattern, right? And we do that using trays and something we call a matrix base or a tray liner.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically consists of, the tray.
Yeah.
This is a matrix base. Set it inside, load it with tile. From there, you grab your gripper apparatus. And you set up your cups. Each one of these plugs comes out, and a cup can go in it. So
Mm-hmm.
this is alpha numeric across the line, and you just you have all the information. We give you the information as to how to set it up, and then you just take your cups and you put them where they need to be, and then it's just using the tool itself. Give you a
That
little
is
eye
so
candy
cool.
there.
It looks like it's pretty lightweight. How much does the towel gripper tool weigh?
Yeah, so the tool itself, unloaded, is 15.7 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Loaded, can vary slightly depending on what kind of tile it is, but around 19, 20 pounds. Say 21 pounds loaded, you're covered. That's pretty much what it weighs.
Are there limitations on the types and the sizes of tiles that tile gripper works with?
So sure, again, the tiles that make the most sense are a tile you're going to be grabbing, 6 or more of, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we've used this. The biggest tile we've used on is a 4x16. We were picking up 6 tile and placing them.
Mm-hmm.
This was in a stack bond pattern. Down to the smallest you could use it on would be a 2x2, which typically is going to come matted anyway. So 3x3 we've done, 4x4, 2x8. I mean, all different sizes, but smaller tile make more sense. I had one of my guys was doing gang bathrooms, 4x12, again stack bond, and he was doing in the neighborhood of 600 feet a day by himself with the gripper. Wide open areas, big open areas. But when you're using small tile, small area, you're making up a lot of time. When you start to get to the larger tile, you get a large tile in a small area, not so much, right?
Yeah.
It may not make sense to use it depending on the installer. So small tile, big area, forget it. You're doubling, you're tripling your output if you're using small
Mm.
tile in a big area. So that's kind of, it's kind of a rule of thumb that so you kind of have to make the decision yourself. But small tile, it just seems to make sense no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's like you're saying, it allows for herringbone, chevron, other complex patterns. So yeah, all of those that come up that some of the favorites, it's going to be good to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially, you start doing herringbone. I mean, the savings is pretty miraculous.
That's a great way to put that.
Yeah.
So, what kind of preparation is required in terms of getting the pattern ready for the feeding system?
Sure. So in order to get you a tray liner or a pattern matrix base, technically what it's called, we would need exact tile size, grout joint size, and of course your pattern. Those three things, we put it together. We'd have it. We typically ship 4 to 5 business days, and you'd have it in hand. What we've been asking people, just because depending on who's making the tile, some tile can be a little out of spec, and the tolerance can be up to an eighth difference I've seen. So what we've been doing is asking for a box of the tile you'd be using. Um, so that's what we have been doing, and it's just been working out flawlessly so far.
Oh, that's a great way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what do you think like the learning curve for a new operator is, or a new crew to use the towel gripper?
Well, first time we used it was basically a 3-dayer, to really get it down. This was really tight areas, small tile, but real tight areas.
Mm-hmm.
And but now, it's kind of, it's anybody who's has been installing for a while. It's probably 2 days, between 2 and 3, let's say, before you're really getting the hang of how to keep the machine moving. Because what
Yeah.
happens is it's so fast that every time you put it down, you slow down, right? So the idea is to keep it moving. And look, tile installers, they're pretty adept to pretty much anything they try. They use their brains. They understand how to work. So it comes pretty quick.
That's really neat. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there have been changes throughout, the industry over time that you have to keep incorporating new ways to do things.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just how it works, right? And with the average age of a tile installer in the United States of 52 years old,
Mm.
I mean, you see what I'm bringing to the table here. A lot of white hairs there. So, it's just kind of how it is. And it just makes sense to have someone else doing the bulk work, and you're prepping in front in terms of layout, and then, behind to make sure everything's coming together the way you want it. That's kind of how we see it.
Yeah. Using that wisdom in the right places.
Exactly. Exactly.
Love it. So, what would you say, like you're investing into the tile gripper? What is going to be your payback time frame, and are there variables that come into play with that?
Sure. So, and there are, and so for a large contractor
Mm-hmm.
who's doing large work, the payback is, if you're doing prevailing wage work, the payback is, 2 to 4 weeks.
Mm.
You pay for the tool, and if you're doing smaller work, when I say small, I'm not talking about bathrooms because it doesn't make sense to use it for a bathroom here and a bathroom there, of course. Right
Mm-hmm.
now it doesn't. It will later. That's another podcast though. But
Ah,
we'll talk about that. But
yes.
for large work, the payback is quicker than anything I've ever seen on the market, to be honest with you.
That's a mind blower, I bet, for you just to see the kind of the ROI that's coming back with this.
It kind of amazed me, and that's when I knew that this thing needs to be out there. It needs to be in the market.
And it's right on the next question I have for you. Like, it being on the market, how is this going to change the industry, in your opinion?
Well, what it's going to do is, tile manufacturers are simply going to sell more tile.
Ah,
Yeah, because I mean, tile has been, sales and tile consumption of ceramic tile has been steadily been driving down. The labor costs are
mm,
expensive, of course, and you have a lot of other options these days in the way of resilient flooring, and obviously resilient flooring is all petroleum based. Ceramic tile is all earth bound products, right? That we're using to make that tile. So, theoretically, it's better for the environment, right? But it's just a better surface. It holds up, and that's why it's been used for so long. But it's getting so expensive that we're seeing it. We have seen it where owners are opting out in areas where they can use resilient, just trying to save money on the overall ceramic tile package in a new building. And so
Yes.
what I see is, I mean, you're saving enough money where the owner technically over time will be getting the tile itself for free. And they're just going to be putting more tile in.
Mm.
It really has to help the industry in that way.
That's a great way of looking at that because, like you said, it is more environmental. I mean, this is a centuries old uh, product and art form in a sense. And it's just really wonderful how, it's still being used today, but the different innovations will keep it current and keep us coming back to it instead of, kind of depending on the less expensive, but maybe questionable, environmental impact type stuff, right?
No doubt about it.
Here's the big question. What is the current price for this? Now we're talking, of course, here in June 2025. What's the current price for the tile gripper system?
So the system, which basically consists of six trays, the static trays,
Mm-hmm.
the tile gripper, along with a case, obviously comes with a warranty.
Mm-hmm.
40 suction cups, right, which pretty much get you on anything you're going to be doing. The whole package comes in around $15,000. That will get you. That's a setup to do about 100 square feet at a time, right? It varies
Mm-hmm.
slightly depending on the tile, but that setup you're doing, you do 100 square feet, you set up again, do 100 square feet, you just keep doing that. And just to give you an idea, you're putting 100 square feet on the wall. Once your, adhesive's on the wall, you're setting 100 square feet in around 12 to 15 minutes. And then,
Wow.
now you still have to do your cuts. This is field,
Mm-hmm.
but even in fairly small areas, this is kind of how it goes.
So that just means more opportunity to do more work because you're not having to spend days doing something that could maybe be a fraction of the usual time.
No, absolutely. It really is a game changer on large wall projects, especially. You could
Mm-hmm.
also do quarry tile with this, including very abrasive quarry tile.
Mm.
You change out your suction cup, you use a slightly different suction cup. So this would be a typical suction cup,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see the profile, and this is a bellows cup, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just gives you a little more play, and you switch out your cups, and you can pick quarry tile. You can also do fluted tile. See if you know if you can see that on
Yeah, because it's
video.
got some ridges in it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
grabs it, no problem. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty versatile. Really small tile, really large tile. Really large meaning again up to 4 by 16. You're still putting six tile on a time.
Wow. That's a lot, honestly.
It is until you're doing 24, then six seems like nothing.
I bet. Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah. So, like, winding down here, like, how can anyone who's viewing this interview, how can they get their tile gripper?
Well, they can go to our website, tilegripper.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of info there. They can call. There's a number there where
Okay.
they can call us, and we're happy to run through the whole process with them, get them set up. We want to make sure that everything goes as flawless as possible. Obviously, we're not selling toys here. You
Mm-mm.
get to the site and you have men sitting there. You've got to make sure that they're ready to go. So we're committed to rolling out in an intelligent fashion. And
That is a commitment. It truly is. And
yeah,
that just kind of really conveys the seriousness and the commitment to your product and why you feel so strongly about how this could really revolutionize the towel industry. Um, and, that's so exciting to be sharing this. So, is there anything else, Michael, you wanted to share that maybe we haven't covered about this new product?
it is a precision tool. It's made
Mhm.
really well. It's made in the U.S. and we're really happy to be offering this new system to the marketplace.
And I love that you mentioned that it was manufactured in the United States because you know what? That's an awesome thing.
It definitely is. I mean, that was always the desire, and it's just so happens we were able to work this out with a really good manufacturer. It's, about 3 hours from us up in Massachusetts, and
Hmm.
real happy with the product they're delivering.
Well, this is very exciting. Like I said before, just seeing your product there at Coverings in Orlando this year was almost like shocking. That's such a great idea. So I just wish you guys the greatest success. And I look forward to the future updates as we go along in this year. And, to anybody watching this, you've got to try this thing out. I imagine if you want to hear testimonies that could be coming in the future too with all the people that are going to be buying them, right?
Absolutely, we already have a few, and more to come for sure.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing more about this product out on the market.
that's great. Thank you, Christy, for having us.